Welcome to Season 3 of This Is How My Brain Works, the podcast about living, thriving, and laughing through the ups and downs of neurodiversity. We explore the real stories, the real struggles, and the real strengths that come with thinking differently.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of This Is How My Brain Works, the podcast where our neurons don't always fire on schedule, but they eventually get there. I'm Sarah Hines, joined by Krista Gano, Michael Collins, the dream team of overthinkers, late bloomers, and occasional geniuses. Jason is out on assignment, probably hyper-focusing on something spectacular. But today, we're diving into asynchronous development, that wonderful mismatch where your brain, heart, and social skills all grow at different speeds. So let's talk about how that plays out in real life. For me, it meant that as a kid, I seemed to be getting it all intellectually, but emotionally I was a mess and kind of had to be taught a lot of social skills explicitly. I wish I had an example right now, but that might be too embarrassing. So I'm going to open it up and hope that Michael or Krista is willing to share something until something less embarrassing comes to mind for me.
I'm reading through this definition here, and it is interesting. I feel like when I was very young, I had a certain awareness of things, like existentially and socially, and like I was very perceptive. I could pick up on things. I just maybe people's energies or expressions, or so I was very, very aware of things. I think my perception and awareness was very heightened.
Like social awareness?
Yeah,
What
just
about
like,
emotional? Same?
but well, what's interesting is that like this asynchronous development, like this development happens at different ages, whether it's the emotional, social, but I felt, even though I was very aware, I still felt like, and I think I still today feel like immature for my age. Like I feel like I haven't quite arrived at the age that I am. Like I'm always feeling like I'm scrambling to catch up to a thing. I
But
think
isn't that more
like,
about perception, Michael? I mean, it's like we perceive that others have themselves together, and that's how you might feel in the world. But
yeah, well, I mean, I
you're
think that could
doing
be
all the
part of
grown-up
it.
things, Michael. You're doing all the grown-up things.
Well, yes, I understand that I'm
Just so
doing.
everybody knows, right before we got on here, we were talking about insurance.
That's
So you're doing you're doing the grown-up things.
homeowners insurance and health insurance. Yeah, I no, that is very true, and but I still feel like it still feels like underdeveloped in a certain maturity stage somehow. Like a friend of mine I was talking to yesterday, he's like, "Yeah, I remember when I bought that house in Wash Park, and um like right out of college. Not that that equals maturity, but it was just like I didn't even understand the steps of doing something. Like maybe that's executive functioning. Maybe that's just like the ability to plan or to move through life strategically.
I think
And
it's
I was
also partially choosing a creative life sometimes other than the path every single one of us chose the path less trodden or whatever that line is.
trodden.
Yeah, that's a good word, trodden. So I think in general, all of my friends from high school got married and had kids a decade before me. And that didn't mean that I was less mature necessarily. It just meant I chose a different path where having kids while,
But
doing something
were you
else is different.
confident in your choices and direction? Were you like,
No, never. Still don't. I still wonder, like everybody else seems to have like, the 401k plan sorted out and the retirement now starting to come in because they were teachers and now they're retiring and they're all on a
right.
cruise. And I'm still sitting here trying to make a movie I've been trying to do for a decade. They're just different choices. And I just think we have to be really careful not to compare ourselves always with the neighbor and say that it's about our development because we just chose differently. That said, my mother says that she feels like I came out of her womb as an adult in terms of my seriousness, in terms of my decision making, in some ways. And I would tell her that it's probably a good show, but not really how I feel on the inside. But now I've always known that I'm an asynchronous learner. Like I am one of those
Wait,
learn.
I'm gonna back up for just a second and say asynchronous for anybody who's struggling with the term. I'm guessing you all know since I assumed it, but perhaps not, means at different rates. So like it's not happening at the same time. Our ability to emotionally understand, socially understand, and intellectually understand. And so, Krista, back with your own asynchronicity.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think there's a couple things to say about that. I know I'm an asynchronous learner, meaning that I will come to the answer of things and not know how I got there. So I have to figure that I have gathered somehow passively in some ways gathered enough information to have it click in my head. Um, and, you know, and that's how I've always learned. So I don't always, and I was one of those gifted and talented kids that you throw in a room that you're not quite sure how they know things, but they do know things. And I can't tell you, I'm a horrible teacher in many ways, great coach, not always a great teacher because I don't know how to teach steps that I did not go through to learn something. And people will call it like intuition and all kinds of words attached to it. But in terms of being I would say that I don't care if you're neurotypical or neurodivergent. We have people out there, especially right now, I think in America, well, everywhere in the world, who might be in their 60s or 70s and not emotional and not have learned emotionally what someone who is a Gen Alpha or Gen Zer knows right now.
Mm-hmm.
And that in some ways is part of why we're having a podcast because I mean, you can call it asynchronous or just growing up in a world that didn't value talking about mental health or studying women or whatever it is. But there's a lot of us coming into a lot of growth right now that that might seem late to the party. Or we might feel like, why didn't we learn this when we were younger or whatever? But some of it is about the times your environment, the times you grow up in, like what's happening.
Yeah, you're making me think of the term late bloomers. And
Yeah, late bloomer, that's interesting. I mean, and there are so many variables that go into development. It's family of origin and your biology and the nurture nature and your environment and all this. Um, what just rereading this definition, there's another thing. This can lead to challenges like feeling isolated, experiencing emotional intensity, or struggling to relate to peers of the same age.
mhm. Yeah,
Well,
I was
that's
always
always
friends
been
with
me.
kids that were either older than me or younger
Yeah.
than me.
But I think that when you talk about some of this stuff, even in the example, I mean, anyone who is, I think, put under that label of G and T or whatever, or autistic, it's like so much of that when we're younger is about our brains working at a higher level than our bodies. And, in fact, so much of like the struggles of my kids when they were young, and I'm sure of me too, I just didn't raise me, is that when your brain tells you that you can compute a high level math problem or that you can, do puzzles better than anybody else in kindergarten or for example, the kids were supposed to in kindergarten once were supposed to memorize a poem, and Cade memorized like a 2-page poem all on his own. I didn't say, hey, let's do this, but it was like a 2-page poem on dinosaurs. And so and we're all supposed to go into the school and sit down and everyone's going to do their poem, and every other kid was like, Jack and Jill went up the hill. Done. And Cade stands up, and does a 2-page dinosaur poem with different species. And I had no idea that nobody else was doing that. No, just different species. No, because it was just about, it was as if it was about, it wasn't different voices. It was just about different species. And that is one of those things that, you know, when your brain works faster than your emotional container or your body,
Physical container, yeah.
your physical container, that's where a lot of meltdown in a lot of those, the kids happen when they're younger, because a lot of it, when they say, oh, well, they'll just grow out of the meltdowns. I'm not sure. I think we have meltdowns differently. I don't know how much we completely grow out of them, but a lot of it is about I think our brain starting to match with the growth of the other pieces of our puzzle.
I thought of a not embarrassing story that typifies this for me. First, I'll segue with, I also had to memorize a poem, and I chose Sarah Cynthia Sylvia Stout Would Not Take the Garbage Out by
Oh,
Shel.
that's a good one.
It's 2 pages.
Yeah, a good one.
Yeah, she would not take the garbage out, though. Yeah, I'm not going to recite the whole thing, which I still have in my memory banks. But the embarrassing, not embarrassing, asynchronous story was I used to have one of those big wheel tricycles, the
Oh, yeah.
plastic ones. It was primary colors, yellow, blue, and red. I loved her so much. And we lived on a hill in San Francisco, and I would, like at 2.5, I would drag it to the top of the hill, sit on it, feet straight out, and go flying down the hill. And our house was in the middle of the block where the hill leveled out and was straight. And so then I would like basically stop, turn back around, go up the hill. So I'm doing this one day, and as I'm getting to the top of the hill, apparently my parents' friend had come and pulled into our driveway in his giant Lincoln Continental. So it was obstructing the sidewalk. So I'm barreling down full speed, legs out, adrenaline rate, loving it. And I see the car and I think, oh, I'm fine. I can just go around it. Well, I didn't actually use my body to go around it. I just thought it in my head. So into the wheel of the tire. I mean, into the, straight into it. And I'm sorry, that slapping my hand was too loud for our listeners. But I hit that car full speed at 2.5 years old, so loud that my parents and friends all ran to the window and looked out, and they see me get up and start to do the woo, woo, butterfly, seeing stars kind of thing. And before my dad could get outside, by the time he got outside, I was back, walking back up the hill, pulling my big wheels up with me, and then proceeded to go down the next time. And that next time, I knew, oh, I can't just think that I want to move. I have to actually turn the steering wheel to go around it. And I did. And then I just kept doing my hamster wheel with my big wheel. But that's an example of like my brain not thinking it, but not doing it until I had the lesson and then knowing. And maybe it's not a great example of asynchronous, but it's a funny story. So I'm going to leave it right there.
That is great. I mean, it's just like,
yeah, with bright orange hair, I looked a lot like an orangutan because my hair in all directions. I'm not joking. I wish I was kidding. I had the caution orange hair that was kind of like you'd stuck my finger into a light socket because it was fine, and we lived in, a lot of static electricity.
That's
But
the experiential learning modality.
Yes. But I guess my question is, and again, I always feel like I say this because I don't know what it is to grow up in any other brain than mine, or have the kids that I watch externally grow up, who are mine. But I feel like this hits everybody, regardless of if you're neurotypical or neurodiverse, because it's just kind of life. I mean, I think there's a huge, you can sit there. I was just seeing this. There's this person that I follow. I think her name is I'm not even gonna try. She's Muslim, and she's got this beautiful name, and I'm gonna mess it up right now, so I'm not gonna try, and we can maybe put it in the notes. But she's done this documentary where she has gone right into, sorry to even talk about this, but too bad, Gana. She has gone into white supremacist circles, and she has interviewed them as a Muslim young woman, and she it has turned out that several of the people that are in her documentary, they became such good friends that these men have left left those organizations, and they were leaders of these organizations because they were the ones that she was interviewing. And she says, you know, she talks about how one of the reasons why she wanted to do it was because she had such a fear of these men too. She said it was twofold. I wanted to know what they were thinking, but I also needed to prove to myself that I could walk into that space and hold my own as a human being and leave and be okay. And so this does have a point. But the thing that when you think about that, there is an area, and I don't know of these people who she interviewed. I don't know where they are in terms of neurodiverse, neurotypical, whatever it is. But these men talk about how they had such a big growth in sort of emotional growth and empathy and not being able to other someone who was right in front of them and really, taking some time to learn something new about someone else and therefore themselves. And to me, that is a version of that but for whatever reason, they did not have that opportunity to have that before. So when you talk about a big emotional growth, I think that's a huge emotional growth. And it happened in their 30s, 40s up,
Yeah, like I think of like a plant that's only given light from one direction. And then suddenly it's given light from another direction and it grows leaves on that side and starts to blossom. Maybe it's that we are siloing ourselves, and maybe, I don't know how neurodivergence fits into that, because I do think the asynchronous development for me is an extreme version of what I think everyone maybe neurotypically goes through. So I was verbalizing certain things as a 2 and 3-year-old that, like, another story, my dad was a child psychiatrist, and he was studying to be a child psychiatrist when I was in my formative years. And we moved from Louisiana to San Francisco, and I had been singing my ABCs prior to moving. And we got to San Francisco and I stopped, and he noticed after a couple of weeks and he said, Sarah, what happened to your ABCs? And I said, my ABCs went bye-bye to New Orleans. And he had the awareness knowledge base to know that that's exactly what happened. Kids often regress when they are confronted with something difficult. And not only was I regressing, but I could articulate it in a way that was beyond what he thought was a normal thing to articulate. And so it's like 3 dials: social, emotional, and intellect are turned at, my social was at 0, where my emotional was maybe at 75, where a normal person's at 10 for all 3, or at 10 and 8 and 12. So I think that.
Do you think that that's accurate, though, that there are people in the world that they seem to sort of just like all of those 3 things just grow at the same rate, like regardless?
No, because back to the plant analogy, we're all getting sunlight maybe from only 1 or 2 inputs, not all 3 are infinite. 3 is, I'm simplifying the analogy. But so yes, I think it's both and. I've basically gotten no closer.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's like what's getting nurtured or what's getting sun, right? And that's gonna develop, I guess. And then
because you even look at like, say, the kid who is what I would describe as neurotypical, plays sports, great with socially, like homecoming king, whatever you want to do, gets in Spanish class and can't seem to make it out with, is clinging onto that C for everything he's got. There's a difference there, right? With how he's learning in different areas. Like, I guess my thing that is so, is I'm like, I guess we all got it in some ways. I mean, there's definitely times in a neurodivergence life that it probably feels extreme and different and bigger and whatever. But the fact that I am still learning how awkward I am socially now, even now, I still think that there is someone who's probably really great socially, but can't critically think to save their life somewhere. I just think no matter what, we're all falling in those spectrums in different ways at different times.
Well, and then, right. And then looking through the characteristics. So, as we've been talking about this uneven development, and this is interesting, it says a child might think like a much older person, but still behave like a younger one, or have advanced physical skills, but struggle with emotional regulation. And I think about like a lot of stand-up comics are neurodiverse, like probably all of them. And it's just kind of like it hit me like because a lot of comics will be able to understand complex thoughts, and express them in a way that is funny, but it's like, yeah, so that ability to think and like understand like these higher concepts, these universal concepts, but then communicate it in a way that's like very accessible. It's almost like they're kind of straddling that like those two things as far as like something that's much more, I don't know, maybe think like in a more mature manner, but then the joke could be not that there aren't like brilliantly written stuff, but like a lot of humor, I think, is kind of it's more accessible. I don't want to say dumbed down because that's not what all comedy
No,
is.
because comedy or humor is a commonality, right? Like
Hmm.
we don't laugh because I mean, yes, there are beautifully crafted jokes. There's no doubt about that. But that's not often why we laugh. We laugh because we see ourselves in whatever in the story that's being told. And so it's a
Hmm.
commonality factor. But I think that when you look at probably many people in entertainment, but certainly, or at least talent, but certainly in that comedian space, we there is a sense that we get flooded faster than others, right?
Yeah.
And so I guess you could argue that might be an emotional that our emotional piece of that puzzle in terms of development is maybe stuck a bit. Like when you were saying, maybe I feel like sometimes I'm stuck. I'm a late bloomer, or I'm stuck, or whatever. Um, I don't know. It's such all of this stuff is such an interesting thing because I feel like as a neurodivergent who has had to mask forever, I feel like so much of what I think or feel about certain things has been pushed down so that I don't like it's all evened out and been shoved down. I've had this, you guys have known I've had a couple of weeks that are pretty tough and actually a whole group has. We all have. And there are just these moments where I feel like tears are just like bubbling right under the surface. They're just sort of right there. They're just right under the surface. And I can feel it sort of like, nope. And I just push it down. And I think our masking, I mean, I don't know, I'm a level 10 masker at this point. Like I got this down. But I can't help but wonder in that by not allowing ourselves to sort of develop as we would naturally develop and by putting the mask over it. I don't know. I wonder all of the time if we're like all giving ourselves cancer because we're shoving so much down, asking things and not, being truly open and honest with most in our life about how we feel. And, we've turned into such a, in quotes, polite in some ways society. And I don't mean that. I think we need to be polite to, and I think we need to
Yeah,
be,
you said that a lot, and I love that about you.
well, I think we need to be kind to one another. And I think we need to hold each other with empathy and love. But I don't think we need to be toxically polite. And there is a difference.
For sure.
But because we just don't know, we don't really know any. I mean, like none of us ever know anybody. And I don't know if that happens in other countries or not, because again, I'm not there. But I think we've hit a place in this country where we're all walking around numb. And I really wish that, and I think part of that comes from this place of not being able to maybe fully allow ourselves in the growth of our emotional selves.
Well, I think like
I don't
we
know.
talk a lot about how, you know, I don't really know what neurotypical is. I think everybody's got some sort of thing, but um, like these are universal things that people experience. And we talk about, when you are neurodiverse, they can present differently or more intensely. Um, and reading through like advanced intellect can sometimes be paired with emotional immaturity, leading to intense feelings, stress, or difficulty with social cues. But this like what you're saying, Krista, I think it feels like this feeling of being misunderstood or can cause feelings of loneliness, boredom, self-isolation because you feel out of sync with your peers.
All like my whole life since
And
birth.
and then it can make you feel vulnerable, especially if you feel like your needs are not understood by adults. And I've described myself before like as, imagine like there's this road race, there's like a 10K or something, and there's this pack of people in the front and there's this pack of people in the back. And I feel like I'm just like in the middle. I don't feel like part of either group. I feel like I'm kind of isolated by myself, but I can go up and be with the pack in the front and assimilate and join in and whatever. And I can do the same thing with the group in the back, but like ultimately I don't really know that I feel like I belong in either one of them. I feel that kind of that feeling of isolation. Um, that's certainly
Like,
something that I've
But these are all about
felt.
kids, right? So we're talking about how it feels like it. I mean, we can talk about how it felt like at when we were kids, but really, I think that, we're growing our whole lives. So, we're also talking about it as how we feel now, thinking about this as a concept as adults.
That's how I felt as a
And,
kid though. Like that, like kind
oh,
of
yeah,
not.
no,
but I feel like you were saying that you also feel that way now. And when you're
no.
describing, like what you just described, the group in the front and the group in the back running a 10K or whatever, and imagining, like, I can imagine myself there too. And I mask by doing a quick burst of speed to get up to the people in the front. And I
Hmm.
mask as I keep that pace and I keep that pace, but then I feel overwhelmed and I drop down into the
Yeah.
slower group and I mask with them because I'm not really that slow, but I'm just recovering from trying to have been over here. And then I jump back to the front and back to the back, and I'm never doing what I think Krista was talking about, which is running at my own pace and letting
Mm.
that be okay. And so the tension and toxicity of masking to be up at the front and masking to be at the back is causing all of this dysregulation that eventually I can't hold anymore, and I have the meltdown, the
Mm.
overwhelm, the thing. And
Yeah, so I think, yeah, you either come to a reckoning and somehow have the courage to just be at your own pace and be fine with that, or you experience the burnout, right?
or you do both. Sometimes it's a choice. And I know that in the it's a choice to mask and run with the big dogs or slow down with the tortoises and take your time. So we mask during that, but then sometimes we say, no, it's okay. And there's sometimes a stress of just going at our own pace because maybe we get lonely or maybe we have something we want to share, but there's no one there to share it with. Um, you know.
Well, and I think that there's also something to that idea of, um, and I know I've talked about this a lot, so clear is what I'm going through now. But, always being, just give it to Mikey. Mikey will eat it type of a thing. It's sort of like, I definitely have experienced, um, like I say, people may not always like me, but they like my work product. So that in terms of like if we put it back into the running, it's like you want me to run, I'm really good at running in the front and I'll get us all there and I'll get us all there. But when I all of a sudden trip or fall or need something that, and my expression of that need may not be what everybody wants from me, I get left in the dust with my work product in the hands of whoever's in the front. It's such an interesting thing. I was actually thinking about, back in my life too, like I've clearly as I don't not as much anymore, whatever. But when I was younger, I always had this thing of like I needed credit. I wanted credit for my work. I wanted credit for my work. I wanted credit for my work. And it was like this sort of ongoing theme in my head. And now I think I don't really care as much about it. But I think that was from a place of watching people take my work and claim it for themselves and me being too, I don't know, maybe emotionally insecure, just happy to be there, or feeling so out of place that I could never really stand up for myself in those spaces.
It's
Um,
resonating for me, and here's how it feels for me, similar, where I wanted credit, I wanted credit. That's how I was able to belong. Because I could tell they didn't actually like me or want me around, I had to be valuable in this other way. And if I wasn't getting recognition for that value, then I didn't belong.
yeah,
Does
yeah,
That's how,
that resonates. Yeah,
and I think we're getting close to time. I mean, we've been
yeah,
at
yeah.
this. Michael, take us on a harebrained side quest for a few minutes.
Brain
We have,
side quest.
or not harebrained, maybe it's, sorry, I didn't mean to be insulting. See, and that's my other asynchronous. Like, I think I'm funny and I say these things that hurt people's feelings, and I'm like, fart. I did not mean to hurt your feelings. I did not mean to call you
I
harebrained.
didn't get my feelings hurt. I all of a sudden felt some pressure to produce
Perform.
something. I
Yeah,
was
no, and
like,
I'm sorry.
Great story. Take us out on the best of the bit.
Yeah, be amazing, Michael. Now, Mikey, eat it,
I
Mikey. You
did
like it.
I did get stuck in an elevator recently, and I was in the elevator for an hour, and
With
so I was like
neurotypicals?
in between floors. Talk about like
By
a
yourself or with others?
by myself.
Oh,
Oh my God.
wow.
Did you have cell reception?
That's
I did.
what I thought. Did you have internet?
I don't know.
I
Like,
I had cell reception.
thank
I
goodness.
pushed the button that has the phone on it, but that just goes to like a emergency maintenance service. I thought it was going to 911, but it
No.
wasn't. And I waited for like a half hour for this elevator tech to get there. And finally I go, well, I should just call 911. And I called 911. The fire department was there right away.
I know I saw the pictures. I'll let everybody know. I was very appreciative that Michael shared the pictures of the fire department with us.
So, but this is like
We
this
liked
thing. I'm
them
like,
a lot.
I'm stuck in the middle. I'm not on the top floor or the bottom floor. I'm stuck in the middle of it
Okay, so
all.
you had to like Mission Impossible yourself right on out of there.
Totally. Yes.
Explain how that felt and how it
It
happened.
wasn't nearly as exciting
Paint
as
me a
watching
word
this.
picture.
I allowed myself to be taken care of. I was like, there were literally like seven firemen there and there one firewoman and I was like,
So did they open
I
the
allowed
doors and you
myself to get
climbed
taken care of.
through?
I wasn't like, I got this, don't worry, I got it, please, please. I was just like, okay, yes, I'll take your hand and you can guide me to this next step. And then this person can help me down off of the elevator car, and I wasn't like,
So wait,
embarrassed or anything. It's just,
Yeah.
did they pry the doors open and you had to climb through to the next level? How did you get out? Like what?
they tried doing that, but it was so in between the floors that I wasn't going to be able to get out either
Oh,
way.
did you
And I
go at
was
the
like,
top?
I don't want to get out any other way. I don't want to go like to the bottom because what if the thing just starts working and I get cut in half? So
Oh, that gives me the heebie-jeebies. So how did you get out?
like a worm. No,
Where?
the top hatch.
Yeah, the
Oh,
top hatch.
I heard them I heard them on top of the elevator car. Then I heard them like doing something and then they opened the hatch and then this ladder came down and I handed them my backpack and I climbed up like a 80-year-old man, took their hand. They watch your steps, sir. Here you go, sir. And to them, I am an old man because they are all like probably in their 30s and I'm like in my 50s and they're just like this gray-haired gentleman needs to watch his
Distinguished.
step.
You're distinguished, Michael.
Yeah.
Look at that
know.
crop
I
of-
still am always shocked when someone's like, when a younger person is like, ma'am, I'm like, what? Stop it.
Totally weird. Which is
But-
another
Not better than
asynchronous
this.
thing where you're like, I always feel like I'm younger than the person I'm talking to, even if they're just 30.
Mhm.
So did you and we'll wrap it up on the Mission Impossible escape from the elevator. But did you ever did you find yourself like eerily calm and then like have because it sucked and you were in danger and certainly it could have been way more dangerous, but it's also pretty contained if it sort of feels like it in the moment. So do you have that moment later or did you freak out like in the elevator?
It was, I've struggled with like claustrophobia or chairlifts, heights and stuff like that. So I kind of knew how to keep myself from losing it, if you will. But so I just did different distraction things. I even was doing some like push-ups in there, just like if I kind of
Nice.
exhaust myself, then,
Really smart.
or I'd kind of just walk in circles or whatever, humming. If there was a
Humming.
video
I just
in
read
it.
an
Yeah,
article
that's
about
some reindeer.
humming. I just wrote an article about how humming helps with your vagus nerve.
Yeah, calms you down. The humming
Yeah.
calms you down.
Wow.
It
Well, on
soothes
that
you.
note, Sarah.
Honestly, I think everyone in the world is developing out of sync. Some of us just have the courtesy to notice. So maybe the real neurotypical trait is pretending it's all on purpose. And maybe I'm now neurotypical because I'm going to pretend it's all on purpose, y'all. Let us know what you think in our
We're cured.
Yeah, we're cured. We did it. Send this to your ADHD friends. We've got the answers. Thank you for joining us. We will hopefully have Jason Rudofsky back with us next week. And in the meantime, take care of yourselves and each other.
If you like this episode of This Is How My Brain Works, please like, subscribe, and share. This podcast is the creative work of This Is How My Brain Works. It is not authorized for use in training, development, or refinement of artificial intelligence or machine learning systems. Any attempt to copy, analyze, or repurpose this audio for AI training is explicitly prohibited.